grew up in a very LDS home. I guess that helps the fact that my dad actually works for the church. He is in the CES, so we moved around a lot. He was always the seminary or institute teacher of the area. Grew up with that kind of idea and spotlight image of, you know, your family is a church all the time, 24/7. Your dad teaches it. You live it, you know it 100%, and believe it. And also was always ended up being a bishop, or so we always were this looked after, or what everybody thought of was the ideal Mormon family. So I guess it's almost interesting that I feel a lot of times that when I came out, the riff, at least from that ideal image was kind of shattered, which I think was for the better. So I remember being young, and one thought of my dreams, and not really being old enough to understand what it was I was feeling in the dreams, or other than like this really dark, didn't know how to interpret them or what they really meant. But I dreamt of coming out. I really didn't know what it meant, especially because it was really not talked about when I was a kid. And this idea that in my dreams I was actually able to come out, be gay, and then always waking up from them going, oh no, this can't be true. I'm Mormon. You know, you boys love girls, you have families, you get married in a temple, and you sing songs about it, and you're happy all life. So these dreams that would happen fairly consistently were hard to deal with. I never told anybody because I was, at the time, felt pretty ashamed that I would even have these dreams of the possibility that I wasn't ever really attracted to girls, and that I wouldn't ever really end up living the normal Mormon happy ending. So I had some interesting experience with my dad. I don't know how graphic we want to be, but I think every young boy, and maybe some girls, probably have their own little dabble of pornography. Mine was not girls. It was guys, and it was more or less, it became an idea of a body image of what I wanted to look like, but at the same time it was this intrigue of, I think I'm actually attracted to this, not necessarily because of what I want to look like, but I think these are more beautiful, and I'd rather look at this than girls. And I remember, it's almost incredibly embarrassing, writing down like a site where internet was really young. I was really young. I was 10 or 11 years old, and we'd had the internet for a year or two, and so, but just being able to go out, and it wasn't necessarily like incredibly graphic, but it was, you know, fairly nude sites that I had written down on like a piece of paper. And my dad caught me. He was the bishop. He caught me looking at these, and I denied it. I ran into the bathroom, and I remember having a really horrible experience with him. And one of the only times that my dad's ever been fairly physical with me, where he demanded that I give him the piece of paper that I'd written. And it was just this moment of, my life is over, here you go, Dad, now you know my horrible, embarrassing secrets. So we had like a bishop's interview meeting, emergency meeting at that very minute, and I denied that I was everything, and so we didn't really talk about it for years. That was probably the first experience I ever had with my dad about it. And I think he told my mom, but my mom never wanted to talk about it either. I think she was under the impression that you don't talk about it, it goes away, and that's how it was I was 10 or 11, and that's how it was until I was the next experience, which was coming home from my 5-day experience in the MTC. So I was, you know, for those eight or 9 years, I tried to put it away. I tried to date girls. I tried to not ever think about it. I tried to be the good Mormon guy that everybody was expecting our family to be, and going through the motions, and that's really what it was. I never really grasped onto the religion like I think my family did or people around me did, and so the actor inside of me or whatever it was just tried to pull what it was, like the emotion that I was supposed to feel as I was over the pulpit, or how you're supposed to react or say this or do that. It was really just a emotion, and there was never really a lot of depth to those feelings. So, and it finally broke when I was in the MTC. I was there for 5 days. I was going to go on a mission to St. Petersburg, Russia, and it was probably the first realization that I shouldn't have been there. And I called my dad and asked him to come pick me up. So he did, and a lot of tears, a lot of arguments, a lot of blame and hurt came because of that, and a lot of, I thought we had dealt with this already, talks, and a very, almost as if it was something that could have been healed by just talking about it once. Or so that was probably the beginning of the actual coming out to my parents. They already knew about it. They obviously, because of the experiences from being young, they knew that the same-sex attraction existed. And at the time, it was a very unique time in my life. I ended up going to Utah State for a couple of years, trying to just get away and try to become an adult. And I think that's where I really decided that I was gay, and it was there wasn't anything that was going to change that. But with the influence of my parents and a stake president, they all were wanting me to get back on a mission. So we tried and we tried and we tried and pushed for it, and it wasn't necessarily ever me pushing for it, but everybody else around me thought that it would be great. And I finally, I think that if I'd ever believed that God existed, it was the moment where I went back to the stake president's office, who, when you come off of a mission and try to go back, you have to get permission from the first presidency. And we pushed, and the stake president got the word back that it was a no. And I was secretly relieved. I mean, if for once in my life I had felt like if there was a God and he knew what was going on, he made the right decision, and I shouldn't have gone back out. And so from there, while everybody else was quite devastated and angry and mad that it wasn't going to happen, I was just completely relieved and trying to figure out what was next. So I applied. I don't know why I did, but I did apply to BYU to go into the film program. I wanted, after a lot of conversations, I was at a kind of a turning point, and I was ready to just move and be away and grow up outside of my family and not have anything to really do with them. I was ready to just get away, and I applied to a couple places, and I actually got accepted to the media arts program, which is equivalent to film program at BYU. And then I said to myself, oh crap, how am I going to do this? But I really hadn't dated a lot, and I hadn't experienced a lot of what it was to actually date a guy. So I said, what's another 4 years or two and a half years? I can do this. I can get through it. I'll have my degree, and then I can go and live my dreams. So it came down to BYU, and ultimately, it was a good experience for the program. I really enjoyed my peers and most of the teachers. Actually, if there are any liberal type teachers at BYU, they do exist in the film program, and had a great experience, but it got harder as I got closer to graduating. It got harder as I got closer to graduation because I was losing strength. No, I was getting it was harder to live a lie. It was harder to be there, not necessarily under false pretenses, but I had made up my mind while I was at BYU that I wanted to be a fairly open gay man, and I never could do that because of I signed an honor code agreement, and I wanted to abide by that, and I wanted to graduate with a clear conscience, to know that I went to school, I followed the rules that they had set, and so I had a really, really great bishop, who's actually more of a family friend. We've known him for years, and basically counseled me and said, just if you can push through it and finish off, then I think you'll be happy no matter what decisions you make. Just get through school, because you'll regret it if you leave, or if you end up never finishing because you get kicked out. So I finished school, and kind of at the same time, my family still is just thinking that it's gone away because we don't talk about it. And I started to date some people that I met either online or through a friend, or whatever the case may be, and actually through the fates of the world or the universe, met somebody by the theater, by something that I actually really do love and enjoy, and we've been together now for 4 years, and I can't express anything but love and a great relationship, and the long-term relationship that I want, and I know that can exist. And it's been hard for excuse me, it's been hard for my own family to actually see that love can exist between two dudes. And I remember one thing, we were having a party for my partner's birthday, and my mom and dad came. It was a big kind of deal for them to come, and my mom, I didn't hear this from my mom, but I did hear this from our friend that came up to me afterward and said, your mom just said something really interesting, which was, I guess that I must be the one that needs to really look at myself and change, because all of these people here are at this party to support you guys, and I seem to be the only one with the problem. And maybe that was the beginning of something for my mom and for my dad. And it's hard still. My mom and dad have actually set some pretty specific rules about what we talk about, what we say, how our relationship is acknowledged. Things that I don't necessarily agree with, but it's a compromise. It's the beginning steps of trying to find common ground and that same love and compassion that you have for your family members, whether they decide to go this way or that way, and you don't always have to agree with what they decide, but you love them and you support them. And I think that one day my mom will come around. I really do. I think that even now, from where we started 10 years ago, I'm a lot older than that, dang it, 16 years ago, where it was this idea that nobody really wanted to know or deal with, that went away for another 10 years. And now that it's open, now that it's out, now that we deal with it, and now that it's not going away, I've seen her jump leaps and bounds, more than I expected to happen as fast as it did. And I hope one day that, I guess a quick thing is that my mom and I have always been really close. I, growing up, would always go to my mom first. We enjoyed being together, going out together. I would help her out with anything. We had a very, very wonderful, unique, fantastic relationship. One that I sometimes joke about, that every mom really needs a gay son because they're the best kind of sons to have. And when I came out, I almost felt like I had lost my mom completely. It was hard to talk to her without one of us getting upset. It was hard to really figure out if our relationship would ever be the same again. And it's still not, but I hope that it will come back to that, and I see that it is. And so that's what really it makes it okay, is that I grew up Mormon. I have those the foundations and a lot of the things that my parents taught me that the Mormon faith builds itself on. Loving each other, having compassion, service, just being great members of society, and finding one person to spend your life with, and all of the principles that you learn and as you grow up as an LDS kid are great for anybody. I mean, so I will always have those, and whether I am Mormon, which ultimately I've decided the religious aspect of my life is going to be between me and myself. Although I will never call myself Mormon from here on out, I'm always going to have those principles and things that I learned growing up with me. And I hope that anybody out there that can see somebody who is gay and Mormon, that they're great people. Mormons teach you to be wonderful people, and that's all I can ask, is to look past everything else and to just see that, he's a great kid. He has found somebody he loves, and what more can we ask? We've raised a great kid, and I think that's really my story.